So you're looking to buy a new home, but you're wondering, how much home can I afford? What price range should I be looking for? And do I make enough money to buy the home I want? So in this video, we're going to answer those questions and more. No theory, no fluff, just answers. By the way, I'm Kwak. I'm a real estate investor, certified credit counselor, and a certified financial education instructor. I've been teaching financial concepts and strategies for almost a decade, authoring many books in the process. And by the end of this video, I guarantee that you'll feel more clear and confident about the next steps in buying a home, and I'll even have a free gift for you at the end of this video that could help you in your home buying process. So before we officially dive in, it's really important to understand the context behind how banks typically qualify their borrowers. You might already know that most real estate agents want you to be pre-qualified or that you have cash ready to buy your home. What this simply means is that the banks are prepared to give you a mortgage up to a specific amount based on your income. But what is that formula that the banks use to determine how much home you can afford? So just for a moment, put yourself in the bank's perspective. Would you want to lend money to someone who is going to struggle making their payments to you, or someone who can make the payments without struggling much? Probably the latter, right? So to figure this out, the banks have something called a stress test. The reason why the banks want to see your tax returns, pay stubs, and credit report is to see just how much can you afford to pay each month on your mortgage, even with the worst case scenario. And so the reason why the banks ask for 2 years of your tax return is to see how stable your income is. As in, how likely is it for you to keep your job for the long term? In the end, the result is figuring out how much of your debt to income ratio is going to change after you borrow the money. As in, how much debt payment do you have against your monthly paycheck? Now, most banks want to see that number below 42 to 45%, meaning they don't want to see greater than 45% of your paycheck going towards making debt payments. I mean, think for a sec. If 60% of your paycheck every single month goes towards paying down debt, let's say, how realistic is it for you to be able to cover your other essential expenses like groceries, utilities, or transportation? So by making sure that banks don't lend you more than what you could handle, they could expect you to make payments on time without really breaking your back. So what the banks do is that they work the numbers backward. They know that they don't want their borrowers exceeding that 45% debt to income ratio. So knowing what your income is, how much debt you already have, they can then calculate the maximum monthly payments you can afford at the highest interest rate in the market. So let me show you just how this works on a spreadsheet. Okay, so here we are in the Excel calculator to help you show you how much home can you afford based on your actual income and the interest rates right now in the market. So the very first step on the top is to input your net monthly income. And so in this example, this hypothetical scenario, let's say we're working with a $10,000 a month of net monthly income. From there, we're gonna go and enter your total existing monthly debt payment. So this can be a sum and combination of your credit cards, their student loans, furniture loan, whatever the case might be. We're gonna total up the entire amount that you're paying on debt every single month. Next, we're gonna go and put in the maximum debt to income ratio that most banks are looking for. I went ahead and put 42% just to be conservative and be safe because we never know, right, what banks will do. And then next, if you're getting a 30-year mortgage, there we go, we're gonna put 30. If you were to get a 15-year mortgage, we would change that number to 15. So with that given information, the calculator is then going to factor in how much more debt can we take on, as in how much more debt payments we can make on a given month at the maximum of 42% debt to income ratio. So because we're already making $1,000 every single month on other debt, the banks are gonna figure out, well, $3,200 is the additional debt that we can take on without exceeding that 42% debt to income ratio. Does that make sense? From there, we're gonna go and factor in our mortgage interest rate. Now, a lot of times the banks are gonna factor in a much higher interest rate than what you might be looking at a website or a mortgage loan company. The reason why they do that is because the banks wanna be conservative. They wanna make sure that even in a worst case scenario, you can still make your monthly payments without having to break your back. So what banks typically do is they take the current market interest rate and add an additional 1% just as a safe margin. So 7.5% is what I came up with, at least obviously depending on when you're watching this video, that rate can change, it can go up or it can go down. So 7.5% is our hypothetical example. So based on the $3,200 being your maximum allowable P&I, plus the interest rate of 7.5%, the calculator determined that the maximum loan you can borrow is $457,656.41. And if you plan on doing a down payment of, let's say, 20%, that means the maximum home purchase price is $572,070. So let's go and work that logic backwards to really help you and really cement this concept. So tomorrow, let's say you went out and bought a $572,000 home. Okay, and you put 20% down and you take on a mortgage of $457,656.41. That is the principal balance. And based on the interest rate and the term of your loan, your monthly principal and interest payment is $3,200. And at $3,200 plus the existing debt payments you make every single month, that means your total debt payment now is $4,200 a month, which means you're at that 42% debt to income ratio, which is the maximum debt payments against your paycheck that the banks wants you to have. And just for fun and for reference, down below, I added this for your own pleasure and education. And it says for each 1% increase in interest rate, okay, you lose this amount for affordability. So if the interest rate went up to 8.5%, you will lose $41,484.75 from the maximum home purchase price that you're allowed to have. Because as the interest rate increases, part of your $3,200 payment has to go towards interest. More of your $3,200 has to go towards interest. Therefore, less going towards principal, which means less principal balance you're able to borrow overall. So that's just for FYI, additional education that you could have that could help you kind of guide, some decision making. But this is a very simplified version of how most banks will determine how much you're able to borrow based on the current interest rate, as well as your income and existing debt payments you're making. So with the spreadsheet that I just used, you can see how your income and existing debt play a role in being able to determine how much housing you can afford. And if you thought this spreadsheet was extremely helpful, I am giving away that calculator spreadsheet for free as my gift to you. That way, it could help you figure out how much of a home you could afford based on your current income and existing debt payments that you have. While some banks may use a slightly different model of calculations, it should put you right around the ballpark and get you pretty close in terms of what you could afford. So to download that calculator, the link is in the video description down below, as well as other free gifts and resources I have for you. So if you thought this video was helpful, share it with a friend or family, and consider subscribing to our channel for more helpful tips and education on finance. I'll see you in the next video. And don't forget to check out this video right here where YouTube thinks it's beneficial for your situation.